good place now. You are listening to Perspectives with Ashley Burgess.
Welcome back live to Live Your True Life Perspectives, and I'm your host, Ashley Burgess. On today's show, we're going to be talking about some deep stuff. We're going to be talking about some real life things and some stuff that really impacts a large portion of our society, including children, parents, and families. And joining me live in studio, Donna Sager Cowan. Donna is an author, a speaker. She inspires us, and she's the creator of the Superhero School series. We're going to be talking about that in just a little bit because I love books, and I love children's books, and I love books that are also not just for children, but they're for the whole family. And so, Donna, it's great to have you live here on Live Your True Life Perspectives. How are you doing today?
I am doing great. I am so thrilled to be with you today and coming across with this information I think that is very timely and very vital for all of us.
I think it is too. And it's interesting. A lot of people, and we hear people say, we don't know what people are going through. We don't know the challenges they're going through, the ups and downs. And there's a lot of folks in our country today, with the economy the way it is and where the system is right now, that are homeless. And a lot of people really don't realize the impact that it has on the children as well. And I think it's interesting. And I also think that the stigma based on homelessness is also a fallacy that must be changed. And you're really a proponent of really bringing to light the factual information as well as helping to change the stigma to help not only the people that are homeless and dealing with it, but also to help our society embrace the situation and help the folks that are in it at this exact time.
Yes, my primary focus is on the kids because I think a lot of times they're kind of swept to the side when, as adults are talking about the big problems in the room. But these problems have direct effect on them, and they don't have a lot of voice. They don't have a lot of choices in the matter. But I think we forget sometimes how it impacts their lives, not just as their children, but it's going to impact them for the rest of their lives in the experiences that they have in growing up in this situation that, quite frankly, is untenable for anybody.
And you're right. And the children, unfortunately, in these situations, they just have to deal with it. They're not in charge. They're not the parents. They're going through the process. And some of these kids are trying to go through school and get through school and to do that stuff in the same process of not knowing where they're going to sleep the next day.
Right. This is the fallacy when we talk about homelessness. Is most people think of people living in shelters and tents or in their cars, but the biggest number of people that are considered homeless or on the edge of homelessness are these families that are living with friends, with other family members or acquaintances because they can't really afford housing and other necessities. Couch surfing has now become, the number one normal living arrangements for most single parent families raising young children. It takes away their stability because they may stay at this house for a few days, pick up and go to someone else's house for a few days, and they're literally living out of their backpacks.
That's so true, Donna, and a lot of people don't realize that. And you're right. When they are couch surfing and they are living in other people's houses, there's something to be said of having a place to go. Your bed. When we talk about that, when I travel a lot for speaking or for work, it's interesting how you go to these hotels and you deal with it, and you're like, oh, I just can't wait to go home to my own bed. But it's like some of these kids they don't have their own bed. And it's something that is a total epidemic. And I think this is something that you're really shining some light on this subject.
Right, because it is something I'm passionate about, specifically because of my grandchildren having to go through very similar situation. They struggle and are living on the razor's edge of homelessness. They've lived most of their childhood without any kind of stability or a permanent home. they have to choose between, whether they get to keep something that has meaning to them or a necessity item, whether, they get to live in crowded living conditions and stay together with their siblings, or if they're going to be separated into multiple homes. Sometimes they have to make choices between, are we going to get this much food, or are we going to buy you a new pair of shoes this month? It's very sad, and it's very hard to watch from the sideline as a grandmother. I mean, I do step in and help as much as I can, but me buying these things for them is a temporary fix. It doesn't help the overall problem.
So how long has this been going on that you've had to stand on the sidelines and watch this? Because that's got to be really challenging.
It's been going on for about 17 years. My two oldest grandchildren are now adults. They're both 19. But and they're continuing to struggle because they have had to move on and out, to make room and to, kind of ease the pressure on their resources for their family. And it's like, this is another thing that happens, is that, as these kids get older, the families tend to push them out in a way, thinking that they can easily go find a job and take care of themselves, and life will be good for them, where in most cases, the resources aren't there for them to get jobs. They generally have not had enough education or experience. And so a lot of times their choices are street crime or gangs.
That makes sense. It's got to be challenging, though, to watch that from the sidelines. But, it's interesting. I think a lot of people just don't realize some of the statistics. And I guess you were saying right before we came on the air that 17% of all Americans are considered homeless without adequate shelter or a permanent place to stay. And that's with over 2 million being children. That's some major numbers right there, Donna.
Yes, and these are the ones that we know about. The problem is, the ones that are considered on the edge of homelessness, or as we said, that are not normally considered homeless, that are living with friends, acquaintances, couch surfing, this sort of thing, they generally shy away from counting themselves as being homeless because they are afraid of losing any assistance or benefits that they may be receiving, when they are declared homeless. And so the statistics, while, very eye-opening, are still just the very, very tip of the iceberg, because, as I said, a lot of these people do not want to answer the question about being homeless. They don't want people to know that. And, there's a big fear that their children will be taken away from them, that they will be, considered less than. There are a multitude of problems with it. We have the schools at this point that are offering programs beginning at 7 a.m. in the morning and going all the way through the day until 6 p.m. at night. They are providing free breakfast, free lunch, and some of them are offering snacks and what they call a nutrition mini meal before they release them at 6 p.m. because this is the only food these kids are getting.
Wow. I mean, that's startling. I mean, because think about it. We have to eat to think. You know what I'm saying? In order to think straight, you have to eat food to grow. To be viable, you have to eat. You have to take care of yourself. And so some of these kids aren't eating again until they come back to school the next day.
Right. And, and so there's a lot of them that, they create some habits around this because, think about it. School days for these kids are good. Having a day off from school and a weekend are probably filled with fear. These kids are living in fear and uncertainty. They're always on the move. They carry all their important or prized items with them all the time. but they also begin what we would say is first degree hoarding, with food, with necessities, with anything they find valuable, because they don't know how many days it will be before they can get another meal. They can't concentrate. They are all suffering from lack of sleep, from poor nutrition. They have very little privacy. Their homework suffers because a lot of times they don't have the privacy or the space or the help to complete their homework. They have increased school absences a lot of times from lack of transportation or from added responsibilities where they are sometimes working to help pay for their living arrangement, or they're taking care of siblings while, younger underschool siblings while the parent is trying to find a job or make other arrangements. They eventually give up. They may stay in school simply for the meals and a place to go, but they don't focus their attention on the education part of it until the statistics show a very high number of these kids on this path, by the time they've reached 14 or 15, have dropped out.
And if you're in a situation, and I think that many of my listeners and our listeners today have been in situations in life that have felt insurmountable. I mean, these are big time situations where it almost feels as though, everybody's, against you. It feels like, how am I going to overcome that? I mean, think about if you're a homeless kid, going with your mom or your dad and staying at someone's house and not knowing where you're going to go and carrying all your stuff. And think about what that does to your self-esteem, your self-worth. I mean, you're barely getting by, and it feels overwhelming.
Exactly, and this is where these kids start looking at their future and they see nothing improving ever. And this is part of the reason that I wrote the book that I wrote. I started out as a book for my grandchildren, and it quickly blossomed into this story that I wanted to share with most kids. It's the two main characters in the story, Kat the cat and Simon Cheddar, both experience homelessness in the book. In the beginning, we have Kat, that she comes into the story. She is homeless. She feels unwanted. She has, a large amount of insecurity. She feels responsible for everything, the things that are beyond her control. And then we have Simon. He's on the other side of this homeless problem, where he is being ejected from his home and the family support because of something that happened. This is also a common theme. But I wanted to write this book so that the kids can see that they can have hope. That, through the first book in the series, we see the transformation of Kat from being defeated and cautious into becoming delighted and curious, and, accepting that she does have the tools within herself. As long as she recognizes those and she develops them, she has the tools that she needs to be her own inner superhero and go forward and find her life and find her passion and chase after her own dream.
That's powerful. And, you're right. We all, everybody has that superhero quotient. And I love how you've written this book, because the characters are so accessible, and they're it's just, you really can connect, with the characters in the book. And I think it's very interesting too, because I feel like, when you're in that situation and you're feeling lesser than, and you don't know where to turn, and you don't know what the future holds, and you have all this fear and you have all this certainty, there's that feeling of wanting to give up, when in reality we have to persevere, but we have to have somebody or something that actually helps us to say, hey, you actually have the right stuff to do this. You can make this happen. And I think this book clearly does it, especially with your main characters and how this happens. So when you were saying that, one of your characters was forced out of the home because of a certain situation. Can you explain more about those types of situations that people find themselves in?
Well, we touched on it a little bit earlier. In the book, the character, he made a decision that basically, put his family in jeopardy. As it turns out at the end of the book, he really did not, but that was the way it was viewed. And so his family, decided that, he was the problem and he needed to go. And we do find, kids in these homeless situations where, the resources are so tight. They're living in such cramped conditions and moving and stuff. So it's like when they get to an age where they feel like they can kind of fend for themselves, a lot of times these families have to make that hard choice to say, well, you're going to have to go find your own place. It's like, I've got all I can say grace over with these here, and you're older, you know how to do things, you know how to take care of yourself. So, you're on your own. And it's very hard. It's a very harsh reality for these kids. We have a lot of them in foster care that the minute that they turn 18, they're done. Whether they're finished with high school or not, it's that on that hour that they turn 18, the foster care is done with them. Now, some of them have great foster parents that, will see them through the end of their high school, and some will even go on further, providing them a home, through college and stuff like that. But by and large, that is the exception, not the rule. I think there's a lot of things that we can do, and they're not difficult things that we can do. It's like, volunteering. It's like volunteering is down so much. It's like, there's 1,000 different ways to volunteer. There are all kinds of children's groups, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, Big Brother, Big Sister. There's all kinds of programs associated with sports and things through the schools. These are the best frontline ways to get to these kids and recognize them through the libraries, through the school programs, through after school, just homework help programs. Also give to shelters, give to food pantries. Look around you, pay attention. If you see a family struggling, offer to cook them a meal so they have a night off, or that they get a good meal, or offer to purchase them a meal, or give them, the means to have a decent meal, and be sympathetic. Don't be judgmental, because again, we don't know what they're going through, but I think if you look, you can see on the faces of these children the struggle that they're having to go through that I don't think any child should have to.
That's so true. And it's like they're the innocent bystanders. They happen to be there. It's the collateral damage of whatever's happening. And, some people really are homeless for some really extenuating circumstances and some things that they really couldn't control. And I do think that a lot of times, I think that the thought process on the homeless, I feel like people are becoming more compassionate and more aware. But but the concept of it's had to come so far from where the thought process began, and I think that we are starting to see that. But even in places like where our show is based in Dallas, there's a large population of children who are homeless, or will couch surfing with mom or couch surfing with dad, and there was actually a large group of children that actually. Mom and dad were no longer around, and they were couch surfing with friends, and they're 14, 15, 16, 17, and recently found out about some of that stuff where they were actually coming to high school every day, showing up to school, some of these kids, having no family, no support. I mean, and
right.
Not wanting to say anything so that they didn't get in trouble, and not wanting to say anything because they wanted to keep going to school. Very powerful stuff.
Right. And again, and a lot of times in these cases, if you do talk to these children, you do find that they were forced out of the family situation because they could no longer afford to feed them, clothe them, house them, whatever. And I think, there's a lot of things that, that we can do to help these kids. It's like, we can talk to them about their fears, because trust me, they have some imagination going, and their fears are quite larger than we even realize. Talk to them, because keeping them in silence just lets their imagination go wild, and they think the worst possible things. And a lot of times they feel responsible in some way or another. Let them role play through some of the situations that they are most concerned about happening. And, so that they can kind of have a plan for what they're going to do or how they're going to get through that situation. And then have a plan for if these things start happening in your family, and share it with them so that they don't feel so lost and just abruptly having their life change and they don't understand why. And then I'm going to give you a bonus one. Tell them it's not their fault. Mm-hmm. Because I will tell you 100% of these children that I have talked to all believe that it is in some way their fault.
That's so true. That is so true. It's almost, being a therapist, I see clients on a daily basis, and, I'm working with some clients that have been through some really, really tough upbringing, some tough family dynamics, some tough things. And one of the things that, you don't realize is sometimes a lot of people are carrying this with them, and they've never had anybody, explain to them that what happened to them wasn't right. They've never had anybody, pat them on the back. They've never had anybody just really kind of walk them through certain scenarios. And you're right, because these kids are thinking it's their fault. And much like when parents get divorced, a lot of times the kids will think that it's because of them. And
right. And
that's not right.
And divorce actually is a huge factor in a lot of these kids going through that. We see, these kids living on the edge, a job loss of a parent, a change in the family structure, like with divorce. And recently we've seen catastrophes cause this, fire, flood, tornadoes, mudslides, on and on and on. It catapults these children and these families into a homeless situation with very little resources. So, this is what I tell people, have a plan. When I was a Girl Scout leader, one of the things that I had these Girl Scouts do was put together what we called a go bag. And we went through this for several times, where I would say, okay, I want you to take 20 minutes and put everything that you think you're going to need for 2 weeks into that bag. And then they would bring it in and we would go through it. And it was funny because they would have all their electronics and, hair and makeup and, hair dryers and, all these crazy things. And then we'd sit and talk about it. And it's like, okay, do you really think if you're in a shelter or someplace where there's multiple families that you're going to have access to, plug-ins to charge these devices, or are you going to have to spend all your time worrying about somebody taking them or breaking them? Also, with hair dryers and makeups, it's like, if you've got 50 people waiting to use one restroom, it's like, do you really think they're going to allow you to have time to go in there and blow dry your hair and curl it and put on, a ton of makeup, or, wear stylish shoes and high heels and stuff around? It's like, you have to get down to basics and necessities, and it changes their idea of what it's like for these people going through it. They're like, oh my, yeah, exactly. They have the bare necessities to survive.
Yeah, and I don't think until you put it in that perspective, when you walk through other kids that aren't dealing with it, to really see, and I think that's powerful. It's like, yeah, are you going to be packing all this stuff? You're right. If you're sharing a bathroom with how many people or whatever, that's not going to go over. You can't have that kind of stuff. What do you think? Because when you're, it's one thing to reach out and to be there, but how do we create a collectively healthy pattern to release and shift the stigma of homelessness? I mean, how do we really do that on on a societal level?
Well, again, I think just acknowledging that it's there is the big thing. That's the first step. The second step is trying to figure out how you can help. Volunteering is a huge, huge part of this. There are not enough volunteers. Giving to shelters, churches, food pantries, missions that do help out the homeless is so invaluable. Something as simple as taking, packages of toothbrushes, toothpaste, deodorant, hygiene items that, these people don't have, and they need to be in small portions, like travel portions, because again, they're living out of their backpacks. They can't be carrying around, 32-ounce bottles of shampoo everywhere they go, or, the giant, economy size, toothpaste. They have to decide what they can put in there, because again, these are small children carrying around these big heavy backpacks with all their possessions and belongings. So just giving those things, be a positive and dependable resource for families or people that are going through this. Now, I'm not talking about giving money or giving shelter, but if you know somebody that's going through this, it's like, and they need a ride to go look at a job, or they need somebody to take them to do laundry, or they need to go to the grocery store, help. Be that dependable resource. If they need advice, there are so many people out there that really don't have livable skills. They don't know how to cook. They don't know how to fold sheets. They don't know how to buy economy food and prepare economy meals. They don't know how to get certain resources for themselves. A lot of them have very low education because it is a cyclical problem. A lot of these parents now raising their children in this situation are kids that at one time or another were homeless in their early to late teens. And so their education was most likely disrupted. And so they don't have a lot of these livable skills. Offer gift cards, gift cards for gas, gift cards for food, gift cards for, Walmart are invaluable. It's like, I'm not promoting Walmart or anything, but they do offer a variety. They offer food, they offer all kinds of clothing and necessity supplies, but most of them also have like a gas situation where they can get fuel for their cars. Bus passes, offer to pay for a bus pass for a month or something. Also, another thing is these parents are going through so much. It's like they are reacting constantly. They have no time to create a plan. So if you can give them some time away so that they can de-stress a little bit and maybe figure out a way forward, a way to give themselves a step forward or a step up, that's invaluable to them. And it doesn't have to be difficult. It could be something as simple as, meeting them at the park and watching the kids play while they go, try and create a plan, or, coloring with the kids, or doing crafts of some sort. These are very simple things. It's only an hour or two out of your life, but it may make the difference for that family of staying where they are or getting one step up.
Those are really good ideas and concepts and things that can really be put into practice. And I think that's something that we really need to think about too, is that I think all of us, if we just look and open our eyes, I know it's not something that's making the news, the big stuff in life, the things that are really, really impacting our planet are really not making the news. Okay, and this is another one of those. And so we have to be proactive. We got to keep our eyes open, our ears. We got to be able to see what's going on and not just put our head in the sand. I know that a lot of times, we don't want to get in other people's business, but sometimes when you see people that are really struggling, I mean, it's all about gratitude and really focusing on oneself and understanding what we do for other people impacts us, and what we do to help other people directly reflects on the life we have and how true we're living to ourselves. Because when we help other people, we're really helping ourselves.
Yes, we are. It's like I have received so much love and such good feelings within myself just to be able to do this. They say it takes a village to raise a child, and I firmly believe that. The problem is our village has gone away. Most of the time we don't know our neighbors. We don't know the people around us. So we all feel very isolated and insulated from the world around us. So it's like, try to rebuild that village, even in some small way, because I guarantee you there is a child close by that could desperately use your help, even if it's only care, love, and attention.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and to realize there's somebody there for them. You recently had the chance to travel to Arizona, to Tucson, as one of the featured guest children's authors at the Tucson Festival of Books. That's really cool, actually, and very neat, and included an appearance at the International School of Tucson. And the children are working and immersed in 4 languages. So you have Spanish, Chinese, French, and German. And I'd love you to talk to our listeners about how that experience transformed your life and the lives of the students, especially some of those students that might have been or are currently navigating through the challenges on their home front.
Right. Well, this particular school was extremely inspiring to me. It's to see a school that is taking a unique approach to the whole child learning. Their programs are very exciting because they focus learning through play, giving a very rewarding, calm, and safe environment for kids with multiple challenges already. A lot of them are international students. And so they're already having language barriers, they're having culture barriers, and they're trying to, bridge the gap between what their family knows and is used to and what the reality is, and then trying to go forward in, the world that they live in now. So they already have a multitude of problems. And yes, we do have some of them that are living on the edge of this homelessness. So I actually love their approach to it in the whole child learning, and trying to talk to these kids to try and see if they can provide resources not only for the kids but for their families. It's not the answer, it's not the ultimate answer, but I love that this is an answer that will work. I would love to see more schools adopt this similar program. I think it's very beneficial to these children because, again, it is focused on play. It does get them out of their concerns, their worries, their fears, and makes, education fun for them again. And I think this is sadly missing in a lot of these children's lives.
Well, definitely. I mean, because that's like the last thought. You're right. It's they're thinking about where they're going to be, where they're going to be the next day, where they're going to be the next night. It's interesting because a lot of times we don't realize, when somebody's under that type of pressure, you're taking away someone's childhood. There is no childhood.
Right.
There's no swinging at the swings on the swing set. There's no spend the night parties. That stuff doesn't exist. And to be able to just, relax and spend time and have fun as a kid is something that is necessary to create some sort of normalcy in these kids' lives.
Right, and that I think is the biggest step is, taking them out of primarily taking on adult responsibilities and adult concerns and adult worries, and they take it on at such a young age that they really don't have time for childhood. And so they're literally having to make choices about what is most important right now. It's like, so if they're worried about their brothers and sisters getting something to eat that day, then learning math problems really isn't a priority for them. So if we can take away some of those worries and those concerns and address them, we have seen high schools that are actually putting in laundromats in the schools where they have washers and dryers for kids, because they found out a lot of the kids were missing school because they didn't have clean clothes.
Wow.
They were embarrassed. They were being teased about wearing the same outfit day after day, and it's obviously dirty and smelly. And it's like they actually, opened up the schools early and late for these kids to come in and get showers, to, wash and dry their clothes and to iron them. And they were providing them with basic cooking classes and stuff, because they are primarily on their own with very, very few resources. And a lot of them won't talk about it because they have multiple fears. Number one, they don't want to get their parents in trouble. They don't want their siblings to be taken away. And they also don't want their lives to be taken away where they're put in a juvenile system or a foster system that may not work well for them. So they have multiple levels of fear about acknowledging what's really going on with them.
And kids can be so cruel, when it comes to school. Growing up, I remember in middle school and high school, if you're not wearing a certain outfit or you don't look a certain way, and that's something that I think needs to be talked about in schools too. Is the awareness that, picking on and making fun of and all, it's painful, because there's a lot of kids that are going through, a lot of kids that are going through this stuff. And you're right, they don't want to say anything, and they're dealing with that. And I think at that time, when you're kind of in the fight or flight, that type of stuff, it doesn't really hurt you as bad, but yet it does impact you, and it makes you feel even lesser than, and it makes you even deal with even more of a self-esteem issue, on top of the fear and on top of where am I going to be tonight and where am I going to go. Then you have that as well, that it's just, I think it needs to be brought up. And I think it's interesting that you're going to be appearing at the forthcoming LA Times Festival of Books as one of the festival's featured guest children authors. That's great. Through the Greater Los Angeles Writers Society. Oh, this is great. So this is coming up soon.
Yes.
During the weekend of April 13th and 14th. Could you share some details on how Live Your True Life listeners can meet with you in person? And this is going to be happening on the West Coast. So this is going to be in Los Angeles. So tell us some details on that event. That sounds really great.
Well, I am going to be in LA for that weekend, primarily for the Los Angeles Times Festival of Books. I will be at the GLAWS, the GLAWS, which is short for the Greater Los Angeles Writers Society booth, on Saturday, April 13th from 10 a.m. to noon, and on Sunday the 14th from 10 a.m. to about 20 minutes past noon. That is on the UC campus in LA. I'm also going to be reaching out to doing a program on Monday the 15th with the Midnight Mission in their Home Light program, which is helping homeless families get back on their feet. So I will be speaking with them. But if you want to come by and see me at the Los Angeles Times Festival of Books, I will be there signing books, selling books, and I'll have a few superhero school t-shirts to give away.
Nice. That's awesome. And by the way, yeah, this book is amazing. I mean, With the Courage of a Mouse, the superhero. I love this. Superhero Heroes book 1 is great. Superhero School. I like that. Room 207. I love that. And It's a great book, and I love it, and I actually have a hard copy myself, and I really like it. Just as you did during that time in Tucson, you do, because we talked about this right before the show. You do speak with schools. You speak in schools across the country, and you really cover a lot of important topics, like we talked about self-worth, respect, being courteous, homelessness. So if a parent, a teacher, a principal, or school administrator, my mom was a principal for a long time, is interested in having you travel to their school to share your message, how can they get contacted with you and connected with you? But also, even bigger than that, or even more encompassing, is somebody that's listening to the show right now, how can they contact you? How can they get more information on you? Because you have some valuable information, a wealth of knowledge on this. How can they get in touch with you?
Well, the easiest way to get in touch with me is through my website. I try to make it as easy as possible. It's DonnaSagerCowan.com. That's Donna Sager, Sager, Cowan, Cowan.com. And it has all my social media. It has links to purchase the book. It also has information for you to contact me if you would like to have me come visit your school. I also do groups, children's groups, adult groups. So just contact me through the website and I would be happy to talk to you. One of my biggest ones that I do talk about is, are you a bully or could you become one? Because I think, as we spoke earlier about this, is I think we're also losing sight of what bullying is. We see so much aggression in the schools that they're so focused on this that they forget about the small, cuts that these kids take on a daily basis, not just from being homeless, but from a multitude of things. So that is one of my favorite topics. But I also have some fun ones about, getting out there and chasing that road and finding your dream.
I love that. And, Donna, we're all superheroes. I think you're a proponent for helping everybody find their superhero strength and finding that, we don't have to wear a cape to be a superhero. And I'm a big believer in having those powers. I think we all have something that sets us apart from everybody else. I think we all have something that we do better than anyone on the planet. And I think you are a amazing advocate and inspirational speaker, and you're dedicated to this. Lasting words for the folks listening to the show today.
Well, I just want you to remember you are great no matter what. There is no one like you. You are unique. There is never going to be another person like you. Stop waiting for someone to give you permission to step out and be you. Because I guarantee you the only person's permission you need is your own. I believe in you until you believe in yourself.
Powerful. Donna, I appreciate you coming on Live Your True Life Perspectives, and I'd love to have you back on in the future as well after your trip to LA and talk about that too. So hopefully you'll come back on.
Well, absolutely. We are working desperately on book 2 with The Curiosity of a Cat, and we're going to keep the adventure going with the superhero school. So once we have that one ready to go, maybe we'll come back and talk again.
Hey, that's awesome. I look forward to it, and keep doing everything you're doing. You're doing some amazing work. You're impacting this planet, and that's what it's all about, is that our purpose is directly related to the impact that we have on the lives of the people and the animals and the plants around us, and what we do to really impact that in a positive way. So thank you so much for coming on, and I look forward to hearing from you very soon.
Thank you very much for having me today, and I can't wait to come back.
Awesome. That was an awesome interview with Donna. What an amazing lady, doing some amazing stuff. And I think we all can really think about, what is it that we want to do to really impact this planet? What is it that we want to do to create? What is it that we want to do as far as purpose is concerned? And how can we stand on point of purpose to make changes on this planet to better the lives of the people around us, also to better ourselves. I look at life and I look at what I'm working on, and there's some things that I got to look at gratitude as well. It's something, we have to look and focus on gratitude and really think about that. And gratitude in a real way, not just talking about it, but actually feeling it and believing it. And actually being there for other people who are struggling and who are going through pain and suffering and going through the fear, especially being homeless is a huge thing that a lot of us take for granted. And I know that a lot of us have, we sit there and we think about it. We can't think that far, or that stuff scares us. But this is reality for a lot of folks. There's a lot of people that are going through this. And whatever we can do to help them impacts the planet around us. Because remember, we're a product of everyone else. We can't just subtract a certain group of society and say, well, we're just going to activate from here. We're only going to take this part of society and we're going to make these rules and regulations and X, Y, Z. It doesn't make any sense. It's about everybody. And the stronger we are, the better we are as an entire group. And we can't let people fall through the cracks. And that's what's happening, is people are falling through the cracks and they're feeling like they have nobody. And they have nobody to support them. And especially kids going through this. I mean, they're innocent. And, one of the things that I think we should think about is, I love some of the solutions that Donna was offering. And I think that all of you might have your own solutions. But, really focusing on maybe, doing some charitable work. Really helping out. Maybe going in and finding some groups that are working with homeless children in your area. Really being conscientious about some different drives for food and different drives for toiletries and what have you. Maybe starting something of your own. Many of you might know some folks out there who are homeless or dealing with this or on the brink of homelessness or living on a couch of someone's house, and helping them to really see the light and to understand what can be offered to them. And it's not always about money. It's about time. It's about being there. It's about caring. It's about patting someone on the back and saying, you know what, this isn't your fault. You're a good kid, and our kids are our future. And if our kids are down in the dumps and they're not getting the food they need and they're not getting the shelter they need and they're not getting sleep, that's not a good thing. That's not a good thing. But if we have kids that are happy, and maybe the situation is not perfect, but they know that there's people in their corner that care about them, and they know that there's people there that want the best for them, changes the entire world. We are a sum of the whole of everybody that we are. It's not just piece by piece. It's not just about this person or that person. It's about really understanding that we can come together and help one another. And so anything that you can think of, even if it's organizing a group on Facebook to help folks during the holidays perhaps, or all the time, it can impact. One of the things that I do is I write an article every month for a magazine. Well, actually, it's a newspaper called Street Zine. And Street Zine is a newspaper that homeless adults sell to make money, that it's legally for them to sell, and it's actually produced for them to sell. And I know that it's different from the kids, but a lot of folks, they've been homeless for quite some time. And I write an article titled You, and it's all about self-worth, self-appreciation, self-love, unconditional love. And I really believe that, if we can really help folks on every level of life to understand that there is a way, and there is solution, and there is help, we can really change the trajectory of our planet in a way that brings everybody up in a soulful, amazing, supportive energy way that is so powerful and enlightened. And I think that's something that we want to strive for. It's something that I want to strive for. And I really appreciate Donna for being on the show. I look forward to her coming back on the show. And in the meantime, if you're thinking about wanting to do something for other people, think about what gifts you have that you can really help others with. Think about what you can offer other people. Not just about money. It's about, giving your time and talent. Maybe even just being supportive to them, or creating things, or building things, or making things, or whatever. Because there's a lot of people out there that are doing some amazing things. And I know that we all have jobs and responsibilities and things that we're working on, but we can find a few minutes here and there to just add to one child's quality of life, one kid's quality of life, and really help them to see that this might be a situation they're in, but this isn't the end. Great shows coming up. By the way, check out my website, ashleyburgess.com, ashleyberges.com. Also, my YouTube channel. Just go to YouTube and put in Ashley, Berges. New content every week dealing with stress, anxiety, dealing with the family dynamic, and overcoming toxic relationships, and the list goes on. Stay tuned. Live Your True Life Perspectives with your host, me, Ashley Burgess, will be back in. I'll be back this time. You know it. I'll be back this time in 3 shakes.